What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to another pregame prediction video. It's week 2 in the NFL, and the Dallas Cowboys are back at home taking on the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, here we go. Here's it out for Lamb. He's got it. He's gone. This is history. That's never happened in the history of the NFL.
Week 2 in the NFL, and the Dallas Cowboys are back at home taking on the New Orleans Saints. Be sure to hit that like button and hit subscribe for more Cowboys content. I'll be here all season long. But both teams took care of their week 1 opponents single-handedly in pretty dominating fashion. Panthers lost to the Saints 47-10, and that's an NFC South opponent. And then the Cowboys took care of the Browns. Now, if we're comparing difference in opponents, I mean, the Browns are a little, I think they're better than the Panthers. And so I think Cowboys took care of the better opponent. And all-time record as we jump into this, the Cowboys versus the Saints. Cowboys lead at 18-13. And if you look up here, the Cowboys and Saints are kind of doing this weird thing where they're alternating games dating back to 2013. Win one, lose one. Win one, lose one. You take one, I take one, you want to take. So if you're someone that believes in, patterns and trends and superstitions like that, hate to break it to you, but the Saints are due for one right here, because the last time that these two teams played was in New Orleans a couple years ago. Cowboys won 27-17. Fun fact about that game, if you don't remember, Mike McCarthy did not coach that game. He caught COVID, and Dan Quinn had to step in, coach up the team, and coach them to a win, and is still the only undefeated head coach in Dallas Cowboys history. So that was the last time that they met. Cowboys won by 10. Two different teams then. And also another fun fact, that was the first season that I started this channel and was covering the Dallas Cowboys. So if you want to rewatch and see how much things have changed, go ahead and be sure to. But that was my first season covering that team. But a couple other facts and stats about this game. This is going to be the third time that Derek Carr takes on the Dallas Cowboys. In his career, he is 1-1. And true Cowboy fans out there know exactly how those first two went. We got to go back to Oakland when the Raiders were in Oakland. And it took a note card. It took an incredible effort by Jeff Heath to knock the ball out of Carr's hands going into the end zone for a touchback to end the game. Wild finish. Cowboys won that one. And of course, the second one more recently from the same year that the Cowboys played the Saints last time. We played the Las Vegas Raiders, and that was at AT&T Stadium for Thanksgiving. And we had a wild shootout that went into overtime. The Anthony Brown game. If I say Anthony Brown game, you know exactly which one I'm talking about. Raiders somehow, some way won that one. I think that was, again, you can actually go back and see my reaction for that Raiders Thanksgiving game. We were out of wide receivers and it just wasn't clicking, and we lost. But anyways, Carr is an interesting quarterback for the Cowboys to play against no matter what team is there. And I'll say this about Derek Carr. I think he's very underrated. I wouldn't put him in the top 10 quarterbacks, but I would put him in the top half of quarterbacks. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's definitely not one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and he's kind of this plug-and-play kind of guy, and you see that in New Orleans where he's able to transition, and Saints are still trying to stay competitive and win ball games, and so Derek Carr really fits that mold and fits that piece that the Saints need right now. And we're talking about competition. We're talking about remaining competitive. The New Orleans Saints have not been to the playoffs in the past 3 years. On the other side of that, the Dallas Cowboys have been to the playoffs the past 3 years. So we're talking about two polar opposites aligning, and Cowboys are looking to build on those aspirations. Saints are looking to be better, and it's a fun week 2 matchup early in the season. And kind of what I said in the week 1 pregame prediction video about the Cowboys and the Browns, and thank you so much for watching that. It's still so early in the season, it's hard to gauge what these teams are going to be, who they're going to be. I stand by that with the Cowboys, even though they gave a very encouraging performance in week 1. We still don't know exactly what type of team they're going to be. Same thing with the Saints. We don't know what type of team they're necessarily going to be. Are they going to win the division? I mean, you got to beat out the Buccaneers. You got to beat out the Falcons. You're definitely going to beat out the Panthers. But, you just don't know what type of team these two. So it's still technically hard to gauge because the Saints can surprise us. And I think I'll say that right off the bat. Don't underestimate the Saints, and you're going to hear me say that a few times in this video. In the Mike McCarthy era, there tends to be some games that slip under the radar, and the Cowboys are maybe looking ahead, or for whatever reason, they underestimate opponents. A couple of years ago, it was the Denver Broncos. Last year, it was the Arizona Cardinals. So there's specific games that we can refer to where we just shouldn't have lost those games. And I think this is one that's flies under the radar in that similar kind of way, that if the Cowboys don't take care of business at home, this is a game that could slip away. Now, of course, that is just a disclaimer. I don't want that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but this is definitely the type of game that fits that mold and that definition. Trap game. This could be a trap game for the Cowboys as they look forward to Week 3, taking on the Baltimore Ravens at AT&T Stadium. And speaking about AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys, this is their home opener at AT&T Stadium. And like I said, home sweet home, the Dallas Cowboys are truly dominant when playing at home. And their last 16 regular season home games, they are undefeated. They are 16-0 in their regular season home games. The last time that they lost, it was against the same guy that will be up in the booth for Fox calling this game. When they lost to Tom Brady against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they lost 19-3, and Dak Prescott had the injury that sidelined him, and we had that whole Cooper Rush timeline for about 4 to 5 games there. So that is where the Cowboys are at when they're playing at home. They're truly a dominant team. They really embrace home field advantage. On the other side of that, the New Orleans Saints last year, 4-5 on the road. Definitely below the standard, definitely below 500. Is it a new season? Can it be something different for them? We'll have to wait and see. And like I said, don't underestimate the Saints. You don't want to find yourself down deep in the hole behind early in this game, because I think this Saints team is tough. I think they're aggressive. I think they have some sneaky talent. I think they have some pieces on offense that really don't bode well for the Cowboys. And I think they have pieces on defense that can really make the offense scratch their heads and be frustrated on Sunday. But let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's break down these offenses and defenses. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and switch things up here. I'm going to go Cowboys offense versus this Saints defense, and we'll throw up the stats up there. As you can see, this is a small sample size, right? This is just one game. Cowboys have a 5th ranked offense. Saints have a 13th ranked defense. Cowboys are 3rd in passing. They're 14th in rushing. So on paper, the Cowboys are the better team. They have the better stats. Of course, it's a small sample size, but the Saints look very dominant in that Week 1 performance against the Carolina Panthers. But I just wanted to get this out of the way. This is why I wanted to talk about the offense first, because after sitting with it for a few days, right, after seeing the Cowboys play on Sunday, I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in what I saw in this offense. And, I know in the post-game reaction video, I said, obviously this Cleveland Browns defense is stout. They're really good. They're really competitive. They were the number 1 defense last year. But I just expected more. It seemed like the defense played better than the offense in Week 1. And that was surprising because the defense had so many new pieces, had a new system. So you expected, a little bit of, some learning pains, some growing pains for the defense, but they just seemed to click right away. As for the offense, more often than not, they've been together for a while. I mean, you're throwing Zeke back in, who only skipped a year because he was in New England, but you have a few new wide receivers with Jalen Tolbert, and a few offensive linemen. You have the 2 rookies, you have Cooper Beebe, and you have Tyler Guyton. But I just expected this offense to click a little bit more. I know they scored 33 points, and I know Aubrey had a big day, but I just expected them to be a little bit more dominant, and I was surprised to see a little bit of hesitancy and a little bit of miscommunication with play calling from Mike McCarthy. So that was the first thing I want to jump into, is I need to see this offense be better, because there's a higher expectation because of the continuity in this offense with Dak and CD and Jake Ferguson and Brandon Cooks. I think this offense should be better, and I think it should be one of the better parts of this team. And the other thing I want to pinpoint to is I really need to see a run game. I personally believe this Cowboys offense is a little bit top heavy at the moment, in the sense that I feel like we're very good at passing, and we don't have a run game right now that can establish our brand of football. And we saw it in that Cleveland Browns matchup where we were up big and we couldn't run the ball and we couldn't run off the clock. Granted, our defense was there. They were great. They made it a hard time on the Browns to score anything and get anything, but that's not going to be that every week. And I don't think it's going to be that this week as well. I think the Saints will have a better performance offensively than the Cleveland Browns. We have a running back committee with Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook on the practice squad, and Hunter Lipke. But I think if we want to see change, and if we want to see improvement with this Cowboys team and possibly get to a place that we'd never been to before, talking about postseason success, a running game is what really gets you from point A to point B, especially in December and January. I know we're in September, but you just hope to see, and this is something I said last year too. So that's what I really want to see. I'm hoping to see. And I think we have the offensive line power to get there, but we're just not seeing it yet, and I'm really hoping someone can break out here. I also really want to see a wide receiver 3 emerge, whether it's Ryan Flournoy or whether it's Jalen Tolbert. Someone needs to step up in the same way that Ferguson had a great year last year, and he emerged as one of our top offensive weapons. And hopefully right now, I'm filming this Tuesday night, so I don't know if he's going to be available Sunday. But we need that same kind of offensive emerging performance from someone. And I hope to see it this game so that we can not look forward and try to find it every single week. But those are kind of the things in the offense that I wanted to get off my chest at the start of this video. I think they should be better. I want to see a run game, and I need to see a wide receiver 3. And we just can't put it all on Dak. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he's $240 million worth of quarterback. We should and be able to put it on Dak. Well, no, that's not the way you win football games consistently. You want to build a team around him, and you don't want to put it all on Dak, because COVID year, we put it all on Dak, and he threw for over 400 yards in those first 4 games, but he ended up getting injured, and that didn't lead to anything successful, and it ended up to the only losing season in Mike McCarthy's tenure as a Dallas Cowboys head coach. And so those are some of the things that I need to see from this offense. Do I believe they can outthrow the Saints? Absolutely. Do I believe they can put up big points doing that? Absolutely. But as a fan that has seen this team through the last 3 years, and even though we've had 12-win seasons, a run game would be spectacular to see. I think that is something, if the Cowboys can have a run game, they really would emerge as a really good contender for this NFC and potentially the NFL. And so, like I said, Ferguson is questionable, but I think, I really want to see more tight end action. I think that's something we didn't necessarily see on Sunday in week 1 against Cleveland. I was hoping to see Ferguson more involved, but we just didn't see that. But you got Luke Schoonmaker, 2nd round pick from a couple of years ago. John Stevens, who was out all last year due to injury, but is now back, was really special in what we saw in training camp and preseason a couple years ago. So I believe they can get the job done. I'm really not worried. If Ferguson has to sit, which I'm fine with, don't want to, aggravate it more than it should with his injury, I think Schoonmaker and John Stevens can give us what we need in terms of that tight end game. And like I said, don't underestimate this Saints team. Don't underestimate this defense. They're aggressive. They can get to the quarterback. They have a really solid secondary. And so I don't want to put up the idea that the Cowboys are going to stomp the Saints. And if they do, great. But I just, this is a game you don't want to underestimate. You don't want to fall under the radar. You want to stick to who you are. You want to know your identity and win at home. And this Saints team can really cause issues. We're talking about that secondary. Marshawn Lattimore is questionable with the ankle injury. Don't know if he's going to go. If he doesn't go, that really opens up things for CeeDee Lamb. But, we need to be on top of our game. So here we go. Offensive predictions here for the Cowboys and the Saints. Speaking about Jalen Tolbert in that wide receiver 3 position, I actually do believe he gets a touchdown on Sunday. Put it in the books. A Tolbert touchdown is on the way. On the other side of that, I do believe CeeDee Lamb has a huge day. Love how we got him started early in week 1 against the Browns. I do believe he has a big day. I'm going for over 100 yards for CeeDee Lamb on Sunday. And I just thought about this, so I'll say it right now. But talking about the offensive woes a little bit from week 1's performance, they looked a little bit rusty. I believe they come right out of the gate at AT&T Stadium, and I believe they score a touchdown on the first drive of the game. And if we're talking about number 4, Dak Prescott, I think he throws over 200 yards, and I believe he does clock in 3 touchdowns and has a really big day against the New Orleans Saints. Now jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, because we're switching things for this pregame prediction video. We got the Cowboys defense and the Saints offense. You look at the Saints offense, they're 14th in the league based off of week 1 stats. Their passing is 11th and their rushing is 21st. This Cowboys defense is ranked 5th in the league after last week. This is a little bit surprising. Again, I'm not going to pay too much attention to this because we have to pinpoint one of the strengths of the Saints offense, which is running the ball. Last week, they totaled up 180 rushing yards amongst all their running backs. I mean, we're talking about Taysom Hill. He's not a running back, but they used Taysom Hill. You got Jamal Williams, and of course, you got Alvin Kamara. So definitely a rushing attack that they're going to try to get into and try to attack this defense. So another tall task for this Cowboys defense. They did a really great job last week. But again, I'm not so nervous that I am excited to see if this defense has it or not. A defense is capable of putting up good performances like that throughout the year. But great defenses do it on a consistent basis. Now, the Saints have a lot of weapons. Like I mentioned, obviously Derek Carr can throw the ball. He can extend plays. He can run. He can get the first down with his legs. Alvin Kamara has been a menace in the NFL for the past few years, for the past however long he's been playing. You got Foster Moreau, who's a great target for Derek Carr, came over from the Raiders, and Carr and Moreau have a great connection together. And then you got Rashid Shaheed. I think the thing I really wanted to touch on with this Saints offense, it's yards after catch. They got a lot of yak. And I think, again, I'm not really nervous because I think as Cowboys fans, we need to temper our expectations with this team after what happened the past 3 years. I think if Cowboys fans can sit back and relax and enjoy the show and just see what happens with this team, because they have to prove it to you. Okay, I'll say that. This Cowboys team has to prove to the fans that they're watchable and that they're believable and that they can do more than what they've done the past 3 years, which is postseason success, at least in my opinion. So I would say don't drink the Kool-Aid. I would say don't sip the tea. Let's just wait and see. Even though week 1 was a great performance when a lot of people didn't expect it, let's see what they do against a pretty solid opponent this week, because this defense has a tall task in stopping the run, getting to a quarterback who can extend plays. Now, Carr, he is prone to, throwing the ball and it being intercepted. He can make some careless plays like that. But I think this team's just going to be they're going to be tested fundamentally here. Yards after the catch usually involves a playmaker missing a few tackles and extending a play. Then, a 1 or 2 yard catch or run turns into 20, 40 yards. I'm really excited to see if this Cowboys defense can handle playmakers like that, because the NFL favors players like that. The NFL favors offenses like that. So if we can go in here, hold the Saints under 20 points, and hold some of their biggest playmakers to a few plays like we did against Cleveland, I really like what we're seeing from this defense. It's not, and week 1 just wasn't a fluke. We're seeing something in this team that's identity. And that's what I'm really excited to see with this defense going into this matchup. And I think it's a great test. I don't think the Saints are bad. I don't think they're great, but I think they're solid and they can win this game if the Cowboys make a lot of mistakes and do some uncharacteristic things. So again, I'll say it again. Do not underestimate the New Orleans Saints, because they are more than capable of coming in and winning this game at AT&T Stadium. And if they do, it would be because the Cowboys did a lot of things that they weren't supposed to that might, be just bad traits or just, had a bad game, or they might be revealing something a little bit deeper in this team that we're probably going to be seeing for the rest of the season. And so, again, our run defense is going to be challenged. It's going to be tested. Our secondary, even though they had a great week in week 1, how can you build on that? How can you build on that? And one thing I really wanted to touch on is the offensive coordinator. And I love football. I love the game of football because it's not just about a team versus a team. It really is about player matchups. It's about coaching matchups. We talk about how football is a game of inches. We talk about how football is a game of details. And it really is one, especially in this matchup. And this could be a total non-factor, but it also could be a deciding X factor in this game. You talk about the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, in New Orleans, was in San Francisco the past 4 years as the passing game specialist. So the Cowboys are well aware of what Kubiak can contribute, and Kubiak is well aware of what is possible to get this Cowboys defense out of their rhythm. On top of that, Kubiak was an offensive coordinator in Minnesota for the Vikings in 2021 under then head coach Mike Zimmer. Yes, the same Mike Zimmer who is now the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. So you talk about matchups, details, little things like that, where it's Mike's defense versus Kubiak's offense. It's offense versus defense. It's the master versus the Padawan. It's the teacher versus the student. And in my opinion, I feel like matchups like this usually favor the student. That's just my unbiased, realistic take. I feel like it unfortunately does, just because we talked about it, how the NFL favors offenses and playmakers and things like that. So it's a tall task. But in my digging, in my research for this game, found that very interesting. And so that's definitely something that you're going to want to keep an eye on. And the Saints are going to be better than the Browns. I mean, Deshaun Watson, whatever he's going through. I mean, Derek Carr has it figured out. He's a very underrated quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. Carr is a menace. I mean, he can extend plays. When you think you got him down, he slips out. He can, it could be 3rd and 4 and all his receivers are covered in all of his options, and he'll pick up the first down with his legs. I mean, he is just truly a menace and a hard person to deal with in terms of game planning around him. I mean, he just never gives up. There's a resilience about him. So I like Carr, and I just, again, don't underestimate what the Saints can do. So I would not be surprised if this game is closer than you think it is. And Vegas has the Cowboys as a 6.5 favorite. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's close and if it takes something at the end to get there for the Cowboys to squeeze out or win this game by a touchdown or, by double digits or something like that. So anyways, defensive predictions. We talked about the research. We talked about the stats. I laid it all out there in front of you. But what do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, defensively, I like the Cowboys in this matchup. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to go back and forth, but I do think Derek Carr throws 2 interceptions and the Cowboys get 2 takeaways that way. Micah Parsons had a sack last week, and the Cowboys had 6 total sacks on Deshaun Watson last week, but I do believe Micah Parsons strengthens that defensive player of the year position and that resume that he has there. I believe he gets 2 sacks. I really want to say 3 sacks. I just really think he has a huge day. But I'm going to stick with 2 sacks. Now, we talked about the 180 rushing yards that the Saints have had. I really like this Cowboys defense with their defensive line and with their linebackers, Overshown, Kendricks, and Damone Clark. And I do believe we're not going to be that bad. If we are, we deserve the loss if we allow 180 yards. But I do believe we hold them less than 100, and those are my defensive predictions. Well, thank you so much again for joining me for a pregame prediction video as we go into Week 2's matchup. The Cowboys kick off against New Orleans Saints at AT&T Stadium at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And, of course, I will be here after the game for the postgame reaction, so be sure to tune around for that. But here we go. Game prediction. We talked about the stats and the facts and the history of this matchup of the Cowboys and the Saints, of Carr versus the Cowboys, Kubiak versus Zimmer. List goes on. What do I believe is going to happen on Sunday? Well, I'll emphasize this again. Do not underestimate the Saints. And like I said, in the McCarthy era, there tends to be a game or two where we do that. where we lose a game we shouldn't, and we find ourselves in a hole early in the game and we try to fight our way back. I hate to say it, but I look at this game on paper and this could be that game. And I hate knowing that could be it. But I know I'm unbiased and realistic, but I'll be optimistic for today. I do believe the Cowboys are the better team, and I do believe the Saints aren't bad, but I don't believe they're great. I actually believe they're solid, and they're going to put up a good fight against the Dallas Cowboys here in week 2. But I still believe the Cowboys can find a way to win here. I think it's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be tough, but I do have the Cowboys winning this game and winning their home opener to advance to 2-0. I do have the Dallas Cowboys covering that 6.5 point spread that Vegas put on this game, and I have the Cowboys winning 27-20. Well, thank you so much again for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Cowboys content. And of course, check out the Madden prediction video. And as you guys saw, I post a film breakdown after the game, so I'll be doing that for the Saints game as well. But thank you so much for watching all the week 1 videos and watching the week 2 live predictions that we did earlier this week as well. But I will see you guys Sunday after the game. We got an early game at 12 p.m. A little bit odd that our home opener is an early game, but that's okay. That's okay. I actually like the early games. I know a lot of people like the later game. I actually like the early games. Kind of gets my nervousness and the Cowboys game out of the way so I can just enjoy the rest of the day. But other than that, like I said, I'll be here Sunday. I'll see you guys after the game for the post-game reaction video. Go Cowboys.